So we're on YouTube here. So over the last almost 2.5 weeks now, or it's been now a day and a half that I've been back, but for 2.5 weeks I was at a meditation retreat in Arizona at a place called the International Kadampa Retreat Center, Grand Canyon. It's in Arizona in sort of the high desert. And so it's not too hot. It's got a lot of forest around there, right next to a national forest. And they have this magical temple there. It looks like a spaceship landed in the middle of the desert. It's probably, it must be one of the most beautiful, honestly, it must be one of the most beautiful Buddhist temples on earth. Just very modern in a lot of ways, but also just a real lot of carefully done artwork. I'll post some links to pictures and so forth in the group chat afterwards. You guys can see. And it was my first time back for a big extended retreat like this in 7 years since I'd left living in the Buddhist centers. So it was a very good break from work, very restful, and a chance for me to sort of, it feels like rehydrate some of the inspiration and understandings that I'd accumulated previously, but has been slowly and gradually drying up, I can say, in retrospect. Not quite as bad as the Hoover Dam, but it's but a bit definitely on the dry side. So it's interesting because I was so deeply involved in the community before, and then kind of took me a while to kind of come back, and my mind has changed a lot. My perspectives on things have changed just naturally, and to gather here, exploring a more of sort of a secular approach to meditation as opposed to the very traditional Buddhist approach that I'd been trained in. So it was interesting for me going back sort of being reminded of some of the practices and teachings that I'd had before. But then being a new person, of course. And so I spent the first few days partly just marveling and meditating on the temple itself. So in the Buddhist tradition, certainly in the Mahayana Buddhist tradition, the temple itself is regarded as what you'd call a pure land. And in Buddhism, a pure land is a space that is experienced by beings with pure minds. So normally when you go on vacation, you think, oh, I'm going to go to, Thailand. It's going to be amazing, and no question, it's a new place, you have new experiences and so forth. But before too long, you realize you've brought your same old mind with you. And, if you go with a partner or somebody, then you've got the same interactions, same kind of dynamics. And so often we fall back into some of the same ruts, and over time, everything becomes ordinary again. After a little while, you get kind of bored of being in one place. So that's why typically when people travel, they'll move around a lot. Very little possibility of getting bored. Everything's sort of new and changing. But a pure land is a place that is experienced by a pure mind. Now, you can't buy a plane ticket to a pure land. You can't get there through ordinary means. The only way you can get to a pure land as a vacation destination is to develop a pure mind. And so often it's said that like a Buddhist temple would be like the pure land of Buddha. It's the pure world in which he abides. And you can have some experience of that with your imagination. But of course, what that's really teaching is that a person like Buddha, for example, in that space is experiencing that space in a very, very different way than we experience it, or that we normally experience. And there's one key characteristic of that, and that's what's known as ordinary appearance. And it's very interesting. Buddhist psychology says that there's many levels at which, or the fundamental principle of Buddhist psychology is the view, the recognition that our mind is tricking us, but our mind is tricking us in one main way, which is that we believe what we see. We believe that the things around us are the way they appear to us to be. We don't question the way we see the world. I forget. I suspect that this has a name in Western psychology, but basically, it's almost so universal that I forget. It may not even have a name. I don't know. But the sense that our own mind is correct, the just assumption, the unquestioned assumption that our own mind is correct, is just so universally present in our mind. Now, it has a lot of levels, right? One extreme level is if I decide that somebody is a terrible person, right? I just think I cannot stand that person. They are unbearable, right? What do I say? I tell you, he is unbearable. He's an unbearable person. And that's a statement of fact. I'm just stating a fact, right? And you don't know him. So, and you trust my opinion. So you just kind of assume that I'm actually describing an objective reality, that he is in fact a terrible person. I am not describing an objective reality. That is not objective reality. That is 100% my subjective experience, right? But that's the way we talk about it, right? Like on the flight home, there was, the people across the aisle from me. They're like, oh, American Airlines. I'm never going to fly on American Airlines. I think I've flown on enough flights to have overheard someone at some point saying about every single airline, I'm never going to fly on United. I'm never going to fly on Southwest. I'm never going to fly on, these terrible, right? It's so common, right? Super common. And we want to be agreeable. So like, oh, I know, aren't they just terrible, right? So we kind of agree with each other and we sort of reinforce this certain view. That is pretty obviously subjective. That's pretty transparent. So we see that about unpleasant things, but we see that about pleasant things. Oh my gosh, that is just like, that food is irresistible. That cupcake is irresistible. That is a statement of fact. I'm describing it. But that's not, it's totally resistible. It's just for us, for our mind, we have this strong craving. But we describe the object, the external object. We say, oh, the cupcake is irresistible, right? Or this place is beautiful, this place is terrible, and so forth. And in all of these ways, we never see the role of our own mind. It's hidden from us, like someone who needs glasses, just saying, "Oh, this room is so blurry," right? Oh, this is the blurriest room I've ever barely seen. Because we don't see what's going on with our own eyes. We certainly don't see what's going on with our own mind. But there's an even deeper level. Obviously, we know how we exaggerate the goods and the bads, the attractives, the unattractives, the desirable and undesirable, and so forth. But we even exaggerate the neutral things. So one way to notice this is through a practice that was one of the things that was taught in this retreat, which is the yoga of sleeping. The yoga of sleeping. In the yoga of sleeping, what you do is you make a decision to sleep with a good motivation, wishing to increase your wisdom. And you try to maintain some mindfulness while you sleep, and then you try to maintain some mindfulness as you're awaking. But the principal wisdom that we try to develop is the recognition about how our mind responds to dreams. That's the easiest realization to gain from sleeping, is noticing how our mind responds to dreams. And there's a great teacher named Milarepa. He said, "Last night's dream is my teacher. Is it the same for you?" So in the Buddhist tradition in particular, there's a deep, deep, deep reverence for teachers, spiritual teachers. Implicitly, that is giving deep reverence for the process of learning and the importance of learning, the importance of changing our mind, because there are insights that we can go to our grave without gaining. We think, oh, wisdom comes with old age. There is no guarantee. We know enough older people to know that there is no guarantee that wisdom comes with age, right? The wisdom of our presidents, for example, has not been correlated with their age necessarily, right? You can have wise young people and foolish older people and so forth. We need to cultivate wisdom, and one of the essential ingredients for cultivating wisdom is a teacher, right? But Milarepa, right, saying, okay, who's Milarepa's teacher? He's a phenomenally wise person, right? Incredibly wise person. So he said, last night's dream is my teacher. Now, this is actually a very profound statement. He's technically, his teacher was a man named Marpa. And so he's incredibly devoted to Marpa, devoted student and so forth. Marpa is what you'd call his outer spiritual guide. But Milarepa also developed what's known as an inner spiritual guide. So your inner spiritual guide is your own wisdom, right? And the purpose of an outer spiritual guide is to help you to develop your inner spiritual guide. Because you're among other reasons, because your outer spiritual guide is with you a fairly small portion of your life, but your inner spiritual guide needs to be with you all the freaking time, right? Your inner spiritual guide needs to be with you every single time you're making a decision, like what to eat for breakfast, what to say to your spouse, how to think about, a stranger that you meet on the street. You need wisdom all the time. You need an inner spiritual guide continuously. So the purpose of an outer spiritual guide is to help us to develop the inner spiritual guide. And so Milarepa said, last night's dream is my teacher. Is it the same for you? Just asking. So in that, he's saying he's learning from his own dreams. And the principal thing, now, of course, you can have dream analysis and find like symbolic meanings and so forth. But the main thing that we can learn from our dreams is they just seem real. While we're dreaming, we can't distinguish the difference between our dream world and reality. It feels completely and totally convincing. So when you're dreaming, that's the reality. And it just seems like you're moving around the external world, right? But of course, when you wake up, you think, well, it's just a dream. The first night there, or one of the first nights there, I discovered one of the secrets to lucid dreaming. So I lay down for sleep, strongly concentrating on a wish to practice the yoga of sleeping, and I had very lucid dreams. And in particular, I dreamt that I needed to pee. And I kept looking for a bathroom unsuccessfully. The secret to lucid dreaming in this case turned out to be drinking a lot of water before bed. So I had an extremely lucid experience. I was actually at Barack Obama's house looking for a bathroom. Shockingly hard to find a bathroom in his house. And by the way, he looks nothing like the pictures. Um, but what I discovered, what I felt there is just how incredibly vivid it was, because I was kind of coming in and out of sleeping and waking, and thinking, oh, well, that was just a dream. Now I need to really find a bathroom. Sorry to be using this particular analogy, but I'm just trying to be totally transparent with you. Now I need to really find a bathroom, right? But then you're off in another layer of the dream. It's just layers of the dream, one after another, but like indistinguishable from reality. But the truth is, of course, it is the play of the mind, right? But you wake up and you think, oh, well, now this is real reality, right? What this is the stimulation, of our eye nerves, our optical nerve, our auditory nerve, tactile nerves, our brain creating some mental model of the world from what, when we were a baby, when we were first born, was just a fairly incoherent mass of sensations. You're first born, just a fairly incoherent mass of sensations. Light, your eyes can't focus on things very well. And gradually our mind forms a mental model of our world. And we think we're dealing with the outside world, right? We think we're dealing with the outside world, but we are at all times really dealing with an inside world, an internal world. And so this is one fundamental mistake that our mind makes, confusing, thinking that we're dealing with objective reality when in fact we're dealing with a projection of our own mind. But one of the other mistakes that we make is that we naturally see everything as ordinary quite quickly. In one sense, we become bored with everything quite quickly. And we stop seeing, and with boredom actually comes some degree of pain, right? Boredom is actually a slightly painful mind, right? A child, I remember being dragged around with my parents as a child to various appointments. I was bored a lot when I was a little kid. Oh, I'm bored. Oh, can we go? So being bored is actually an unpleasant experience. I'm like, oh, I want to get out of here. It's boring, right? So being bored is actually an unpleasant experience. It's sort of a low-level pain, discomfort. Oh, and that's why people go on vacation, right? To escape from their daily life, get away from all of the daily grind. But what has made the again? I remember when I just after college I traveled to Ireland in an attempt to delay entry into the real world, and got off the plane, got on a bus, wide-eyed, just looking at the beautiful, drizzly Dublin environment, green trees and so forth, and then some girl on the other side of the aisle on the bus, kind of some like dark punk type clothing on, kind of struck up a conversation, and I said I was traveling here from the US, and she said, why would anyone ever want to come here? And I've always remembered that. Just like the sense that wherever you are, it's like, oh, why would anyone want to come here? It's just very easy to develop that mind. But of course, it's our mind that does that, right? It's our mind that makes a place boring or ordinary. So one of the characteristics of the mind of an enlightened being is that for them, nothing is ordinary. No one is ordinary, no place is ordinary, no activity is ordinary, no experience is ordinary. like this quote from Einstein that I've become fond of quoting: either everything is a miracle or nothing is a miracle, right? Either everything's a miracle or nothing's a miracle. So when I first arrived, I spent just a few days just mostly pondering this temple. And this temple is a representation of a Buddha's pure land, pure world, which means literally a land or a place experienced by a pure mind. And so the idea is when you enter these temples to try to see it as like a pure space, not an ordinary space. Now, we can't go to these temples all the time unless you live in one, like I did for a while. But even if the problem is once you live in one, well, what happens, of course? It starts getting ordinary. So probably that was creeping. Well, no, definitely I could say that was also creeping into my mind, right? After the first few days, I was no longer so fascinated just by this pure space because it had become a bit more ordinary, a bit more comfortable, and so fast, right? So fast the mind does this, which is what makes it actually a training, what makes it a training. And even if you have like a small, and so one of the first things that's traditionally done in Buddhist practice, again, is setting up a shrine or setting up a place to meditate. And the idea of a shrine or a place to meditate is some little alcove, could be a little space that's not your ordinary space, right? In your house. That's a little bit of a window into a world beyond the ordinary. And in a sense, that's what all religious teachings are pointing to, creating some space or some experience or something beyond the ordinary. But honestly, that's what every vacation spot is also trying to pretend to be, right? Some space beyond the ordinary. What every coffee shop is trying to be, right? Like some space beyond the ordinary. Like everybody wants, because we have this incredible craving to escape. But the reality is you can't escape unless you train your mind or change your mind. And so this practice of like beginning to pop or beginning to become free from this overwhelming sense of an ordinary world by cultivating a mind, intentionally cultivating a mind that is seeing things as beyond the ordinary. Now, when you are intentionally cultivating a mind that is seeing some things beyond the ordinary, that is called faith. Now, sometimes faith arises naturally, automatically, but sometimes you have to actually try to develop faith or hold faith, and that's what it is. It's a mind that sees things beyond the ordinary. It's also a mind that sees something as valuable, right? Because ordinary things, like an ordinary rock, is not valuable. Only a rock that is beyond the ordinary, like a diamond or something, this is valuable. So yeah. So this is so this is the meaning of faith, is cultivating a mind that is seeing something beyond the ordinary. Now, faith can apply to places or people or holy objects or whatever, but the most important object of faith is precious, beneficial states of mind, right? And so the contents of the festival, my teacher has done. His name is Geshe Kelsang. He's done a really exceptional job of balancing teachings, meditations, prayers, social activity, ritual, these kinds of things together into one sort of cohesive environment that helps to get a variety of different experiences. And so most of the focus was on teachings, right? And the teachings systematically giving advice, instruction on how to overcome attachment or craving, how to overcome anger, how to overcome our ignorance, how to use our imagination, how to cultivate the inner energies in our body to find deeper and deeper joy, bliss, peace. And so developing faith in teachings means developing faith in these special states of mind begins by developing faith in teachings. And developing faith really means these teachings are valuable. And you can do that by developing a special point of view. And the point of view that is most useful is seeing these beneficial minds as like medicine that overcomes our ordinary minds, and seeing these teachings as like medicine that helps us to develop these special states of mind. Immediately after I came back yesterday, I had some doctor's appointments with a physical therapist because I've been using my hands way too much. And they prescribed some exercises from the physical therapist. Now, from one point of view, these exercises just look like ordinary physical activities, right? Like bend your hand a certain way and, do certain exercises. But I have a special understanding that these are medicine, right? These physical activities are medicine for my specific symptoms. So similarly, advice like these, like meditation teachings like these, from one point of view, just looks like ordinary words. But if we develop a special point of view, thinking, okay, this is medicine that can help me to change my mind, to develop deeper inner peace, to change these sort of deep-rooted negativity or bad habits of mind and so forth, then we develop a special appreciation that spiritual teachings or advice is not just ordinary words, not just ordinary conversation, but is in fact like medicine for us. And that the medicine is something that we actually need to take to heart and put into practice. In that vein, that's kind of some sort of broad summary of the retreat and so forth. But I wouldn't want you to go through this period without having a chance for us to do some meditation together after this very long preamble. So what I wanted to meditate on was on the same topic of learning how to work with our mind. And the meditation we're going to do is a meditation on what's called emptiness. And this is the deepest and most profound medicine, this wisdom of emptiness, the deepest and most profound medicine that we can take for our mind, because it is the medicine of beginning to question the way our mind normally sees things. Again, like in dreams, we think we're dealing with external reality, but in fact, we're dealing with projections of our mind continuously. And just like in a dream, you thought that dream was real and substantial. When you wake up, the dream just like a bubble that pops, and then our memory typically is very poor of our dreams. It's just like they're gone, right? Like a bubble that just popped. So we can say our dreams are empty, as an example. They seem to be real and substantial, but they don't exist in the way that they appear. So the word empty or emptiness is used to describe that experience. So the meditation we can do is a meditation on the emptiness of our object of desire. And this is a powerful traditional meditation, and is a sort of a way of getting some initial experience of this practice of emptiness. So in this meditation, what we do, whereas often when we're meditating, we focus just on our body and our breath, and we'll do a little bit of that here as well. One of the first things that starts happening in our meditation is we start getting distracted. And you start getting distracted and you start, thinking about this and that, and remembering this place and that place and all the things you have to do and what you're going to have for dinner and all this kind of stuff. None of those things actually exist right here and now in this space, right? All of those things that we're distracted by and fantasizing about, remembering, and so forth, none of them exist right here and right now in this space when we're meditating. All of them are these objects of desire, and so we can think all of these are empty. And so what we can do is, this meditation is a little unusual because I will invite you to become distracted. You might never get this opportunity again in a meditation. I'm intentionally inviting you to become distracted. And when you do become distracted, then at that point, you're going to remember these things are empty. They're just like a dream. It's like my mind dreaming. While awake, I'm daydreaming. And you just think empty. It's like they pop like a dream. And you think, okay, none of these things are right here, right now. None of these things are my body, my breath, my room. And in this way, we begin to get some taste and some experience for emptiness. Make sense? Okay, so we can settle in for our meditation. We can find as comfortable a position as possible. And we can imagine that we're in a beautiful, inspiring environment. We take a deep breath in and out. And again, inviting ourselves to relax. And we begin to feel grounded in the space around us, or whatever we're sitting on, the temperature of the air, the feeling of our body, our breathing. And then we can recognize that even now, here, while we're focusing on our breathing and so forth, all of our other distractions, the things that we might have been paying attention to, those things have all disappeared into emptiness. But as our mind wanders and becomes distracted, they may reappear. And so very simply, as we focus on the emptiness, the absence of external distractions, and if they reappear, a thought, a memory, a wish, distraction, we just remember these are empty, like a dream. And this is our practice, seeing the emptiness of all of these possible distractions while we're sitting here. And if any distraction does manifest, just recalling its emptiness and allowing it to dissolve back. It's just like waking up from a dream. Distractions constantly surrounding, buzzing around our mind. All of these are just like dreams. These objects of distraction, they're all empty. Relative to the experience of our body, our breath, our immediate environment in the present moment. All of these other thoughts, distractions, memories, they're all empty like a dream. as we begin to come to the end of our meditation, we can recall the power of even one brief momentary action, the power of our making the effort to come here, to listen, to contemplate, to meditate, joining together in this small community. We think these actions are like they're laying down mental pathways that are the foundation for profound inner change. They're like seeds that transform into enormous tree. We can think a pure land is the world experienced by someone with a pure mind. In a pure land, there are only pure beings, pure activities, pure experiences. Even touching the ground gives rise to bliss. And we can think through these activities of changing my mind, may I and everyone else, my friends, family, all of society, may they all come to enjoy a pure land, a pure world, through finding the purity of their own minds. And with this powerful and generous motivation or vision as a conclusion, we can make a decision to try to carry this perspective into our daily life, recognizing that we are always abiding in a dreamlike experience. There is no truly objective world, and make a decision to treat our environment lightly and to improve our world, improve our interactions by improving our own state of mind. We can open our eyes and arise from this meditation.